Today on Locked On Rockies, a what if scenario. Well, maybe a what if, I guess. Who needs the better 2025? Brendan Rodgers or Ryan McMahon?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 8th day of October in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk, not only to those streaming services, but to the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind, like lots of you are, as we're keeping the conversation rolling all off season long. You got to let me know what's on your mind and on firing off those Rockies hot takes as we go through the off season here, as we continue to navigate and figure out what's ahead for this team and what's next for the Colorado Rockies. So really appreciate all of you tuning in and joining us here throughout the offseason. Thank you so much, as always, for your support in making us your first listen of the day. We are brought to you today by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right state can make you a fan of any city, even your Major League Baseball rivals. Book on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. All right, so I wanted to start this one off with a bit of a question. With a bit of because I think these are two players that are instrumental for the success of the Colorado Rockies, one in a much more different situation than the other one. We start with asking the question of who needs the better 2025, Brendan Rodgers or Ryan McMahon. And both of them finished, Ryan McMahon was an all-star for the first time in his career, finished with the 2.5 WAR last year. And Brendan Rodgers, he finished with a 1.0 WAR last year, finishes the year with 13 home runs, 267 batting average, 54 RBI, 314 OBP, slugging of 407, an OPS of 721, and an OPS plus of 94. Ryan McMahon, 20 home runs, 242 batting average, 65 RBI, 4 stolen bases, 325 OBP, slugging of 397, an OPS of 722, and an OPS plus of 95. Here's my biggest concern with both of these guys right now. I'm worried about their offense. I'm worried about Brendan Rodgers' ability to get going in the beginning of the season and not lose an entire month of the season and having to start slow and not be able to contribute for the Colorado Rockies in the beginning of the season. It's something that we have seen multiple times now as part of a trend, and he heats up and he gets much better as the season goes along, as you follow Brendan Rodgers throughout this season, with the exception of September and July. He was showing improvement throughout most of it, but this kind of goes with both of these players. They are both far too inconsistent when it comes to offensive production, and the cold stretches for both of these players last far too long. I mean, in the case of let's look here. Brendan Rodgers starts the season off in March. Obviously, it's only 4-game sample size. Finishes that year going 118, or not that month, 118 batting average, 118 OBP, and a 176 slugging with 6 strikeouts. He improves to a 265, 324, 397 line there in April, the first full month of the season. Bumps it up to 290 in May, 321, 355 in May. And then, boom, we hit June, 333, 365, 625. Strikeouts cut way down from May and in April. But then the regression happens. July, 221, 288, 316, back to striking out 24 times, 26 strikeouts there. In August, while improving, though, 330 batting average, 364, 573 to finish out the line there in OBP and slug. But then an abysmal finish to the year. 26 strikeouts, 190 batting average, 261, 270 in OBP and slug in September. The Rockies can't afford to have full months where Brendan Rodgers isn't contributing to the lineup. August is a month, you feel better about the way the most of the time the second half went because you can look to some of these things. But not only can you not afford to have Brendan Rodgers go through that, you can't afford to have Ryan McMahon cool off in the second half like he did. 305 batting average, 385, 495 in April. Things are looking good. Still 33 strikeouts in the month of April, 28 strikeouts in the month of May, 36 strikeouts from Ryan McMahon in the month of June, 25 in the month of July, 31 in August, and 30 in September. Those numbers are flat out unacceptable, especially for a guy that's your power 4-hole hitter. The Rockies cannot sit here and say and look at both of these players and have the utmost confidence in their offense. They are solid players. They are good on offense. But when you're looking for reasons of to change, when you're looking for reasons to be concerned, I'm looking at Ryan McMahon striking out at least 20 times a month, 20 plus times a month, 30 times more often than not this season. Ryan McMahon struck out 30 plus times more than he struck out 20 plus times this season. In all of the months of the regular season, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What is it? Hold on. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. It's because March doesn't count. Out of a 6-month sample size, Ryan McMahon struck out 30 plus times in 4 out of the 6 months of the season. Plain and simple, even though he's an all-star, plain and simple, these are guys that need to do more for this club. If we are going to look at Ryan McMahon as the Charlie Blackmon, as the anchor, as the solid veteran guy, I need more. I need Ryan McMahon to change the approach and move the strikeouts. I need both of these players to be more consistent on offense. I need Brendan Rodgers to be able to put together an entire season of good baseball, of good offense. Because this is when you're looking at the numbers, when you're looking at the stats, when you're looking at the bad stretches, this is why people criticize. This is why people get a little bit fired up, because these players they're not reaching the ceiling that we have in the mind for them. And not even really, I don't even think getting all that close. When I watch Ryan McMahon at his best, when I watch Brendan Rodgers at his best, I think that they're much better than these lines. And deep down, I'm more confident in Brendan Rodgers being the better offensive player. The Ryan McMahon strikeout, cold snaps, and inconsistencies and bad stretches have happened far too often, just like Brendan Rodgers. I don't really count Brendan Rodgers in as locked in until the season is a month in. But the Rockies simply can't afford to be waiting to be having these guys be mediocre. These are two guys that need to lead your team. These are two guys that need to be guys that are not only contributors but leaders on your team, statistical leaders on your team. And the only thing that Ryan McMahon beat Ezekiel Tovar in this year in terms of main baseball stats was OBP. Ryan McMahon's on base percentage was 325. Ezekiel Tovar's was 295. When you're counting it against the other, the other offensive player, the other main offensive player for the Colorado Rockies. But again, I when I see most of these numbers, I'm underwhelmed. I'm underwhelmed by Ryan McMahon's 242, 325, 397. I'm underwhelmed by the fact that Ryan McMahon only had 65 RBI this season. I'm underwhelmed by the fact that Brendan Rodgers only had 54 RBI this season. That's incredibly disappointing, especially when you're considering, let's see here. Brendan Rodgers played in 135 games. Michael Toglia played in 116. Michael Toglia drove in one more run than Brendan Rodgers did this year. In addition to walking more than Brendan Rodgers. I mean, the numbers are lower than Brendan Rodgers, sure. I mean, especially batting average, but the OBP of Michael Toglia is right behind Brendan Rodgers at 314. Michael Tolia's slugging was better than Brendan Rodgers. Michael Tolia's OPS was better than Brendan Rodgers last year. And that's a big problem. These are two guys that, like I said, when we were talking about comparing the WAR, when we were talking about the damage, like these are two guys that are supposed to be damage dealers for the Rockies. Yet they float in the middle of here with the RBI totals, and they're not even the team leader when they're supposed to be. Ryan McMahon had less RBIs than Brenton Doyle this year, as did Brendan Rodgers. Charlie Blackmon had 2 less RBI than Brendan Rodgers this year in 11 less games. I mean, it is, and here's another interesting thing when you're comparing these two things. Ryan McMahon only had 3 more hits than Brendan Rodgers this year. Ryan McMahon played in almost 20 more games than Brendan Rodgers. When these are supposed to be guys that are providing the backbone of your offense, like the guys that when they come up 3, 4, 5 spot in the order, these are the guys we're supposed to be sitting here being like, all right, here we go. Here are the damage dealers. And they haven't been enough. Whether it be them, whether it be the approach. Again, this is, when you look at it, the strikeouts just are the huge issue here. I mean, it just between these two guys alone, Brendan Rodgers and Ryan McMahon struck out 317 times. Two of your most important players on offense striking out 317 times is unacceptable. Flat out unacceptable. The Rockies not having a single person that got into the 80 RBI range this year is unacceptable. The Rockies not having anybody that was necessarily a huge driving force on offense outside of the developments of Tovar and Doyle is a huge problem. If the Rockies are going to stick with this lineup, if the Rockies are going to stick with the people that they have, you have to prepare yourself for similar seasons, because again, what differences can we see or hope to see between Ryan McMahon and Brendan Rodgers? The issues and the concerns that we have with both of these players are what we've seen now multiple times. Brendan Rodgers is going to be going through arbitration again. It's going to be going through all that stuff. So the future is uncertain with Brendan Rodgers, but you've made it pretty clear that Ryan McMahon is a cornerstone piece of this franchise. And if he is going to be that, my expectations for you remain high and will only get higher. This year, for a bit, it looked like Ryan McMahon was possibly going to carry this team. Instead, another cool-off, another situation in which he strikes out. He was still a good player, all-star, still positive WAR. But when you look at Ryan McMahon's WAR last year of 2.5, and you break it down by how Baseball Reference does it, most of his WAR is coming from defense. I mean, it's or at least half, it appears, is coming from defense. So my point is, it's not just one of these guys that needs to get better. It's both of these guys. But let's talk about who's going to play a bigger role in 2025, because one of these players, there is a possibility that they could be traded. One more than the other. We'll dive into that. We'll also talk about some YouTube comments, and we'll dive into some playoff drama coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Booking.com. Booking.com's got you covered for all your travel needs, especially if you're wanting to go check out your baseball rivals cities. You can see hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rivals city during the postseason. Hey, when you're looking at the places to go visit here right now for playoff baseball, pretty good spots to Southern California to go see the big stuff. Maybe you want to head over to New York and get diving into that East Coast fall and enjoy a bunch of the rivalries going on there and see some exciting teams. Hey, and you really can't go wrong with the Midwest this time of the year as well. Prime time to go check out Cleveland and Detroit. If you're looking to do something a little bit different, Booking.com is going to help you because they got all the hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute bed and breakfast stays. Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, booking.yeah. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. When you like the videos, when you subscribe on YouTube, when you support over on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, you're helping the show grow. The easiest way to help the show grow. Really do appreciate that. Thank you so much again for taking the time to tune in here, especially during the off season. We're talking about Brendan Rodgers and Ryan McMahon. We'll continue that conversation after I remind you that for your second listen of the day that you can go to Locked On MLB and get all things postseason coverage from our guy Sully, breaking down things for you here throughout the postseason. And as always, you can find all your baseball play-by-play on SiriusXM and the SiriusXM app. So we're looking at the numbers, right? And you can remember these are still guys that contributed. These are still guys that were leaders on the team when you're talking about things. Brendan Rodgers was in the top 5 in RBI for the team last year. Brendan Rodgers also top 5 in home runs, as was Ryan McMahon. But let's dive into this still here. Let's look at home runs. Let's look at this one. Ezekiel Tovar, 26, Michael Toglia, 25, Brenton Doyle, 23, Ryan McMahon, 20, Brendan Rodgers, 13. 20 home runs needs to be the minimum for Brendan Rodgers. McMahon and Rodgers need to hit 20 home runs. They need to be the guys. They need to be. So I guess really, let's just answer the question. Who needs the better 2025? Both of them, really. And if you're the Rockies and you're looking at things and you're making your mind up about the future of second base, well, how long are you going to commit to Brendan Rodgers? Has Brendan Rodgers done enough to make you fully commit to get that deal? We saw a dip for Brendan in defense this year. The reason why Ryan McMahon got his extension, the reason why Ryan McMahon was able to be someone that has continued to kind of keep himself relevant in that Rockies leadership role is not only one, staying healthy and being on the field most of the time. Ryan McMahon has played in at least 150 games the last 4 seasons, played in just about every game in the pandemic, and played in 141 games in 2019 for the Rockies. Brendan Rodgers, on the other hand, here, when you're looking at it, he has yet to play 140 games in his career. He played in 135 last year, 46 the year before with the injuries, 137 in 2022, in 2021, 102 games. So my point is, Ryan McMahon at least is giving you that on the and Rodgers has in 2 out of the last 3 seasons. 135 games is still a pretty darn good chunk of time. That's I'd like to see 140 for guys like Rodgers and McMahon, because if you're missing that amount of time, if you're like I said, McMahon 153 games, that's only 9 days off compared to over 20 games off for Brendan Rodgers last year. At least you have that. At least you have Ryan McMahon's ability to stay on the field, and the fact that his defense has not declined at any. I mean, he might not be as good as others, but Ryan McMahon still is a positive WAR player. Still has arguments at Gold Gloves. Still makes impacts there. Brendan Rodgers, on the other hand, saw a dip this year in defensive performance. It's not like he was negative 0.1 in defensive WAR this year. 1.5 WAR offensive WAR this year. And I know that's looking into things, but here's the deal. That's a big drop off from the 2.9 in 2022. Obviously, you had the injury last year that got in the way. But overall here, in seasons now, we have a negative defensive WAR for Brendan Rodgers in 2021. We have a negative one during the pandemic season where he only played 7 games, so it doesn't really, not really going to take. We have in 2 out of the last 3 seasons for Brendan Rodgers that he played in a full in a full capacity, basically over 100 games. We have 2 negative defensive WAR performances mixed in, and then you have the Gold Glove season of 2.9, and we know he's got gold in that glove. We know that's possible. But this is a season for Brendan for Brendan Rodgers we need to see a bigger step forward. So I guess truly the answer to the question is Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers needs to do more because you need to make the decision about Brendan Rodgers. Are you committing to Brendan Rodgers to being your second baseman with the contract extension? Have you seen enough from Brendan Rodgers to be abundantly confident in what he does and what he's doing and his process and his ability to bounce back? Are you as confident in Brendan Rodgers as you were coming out of the All-Star or the Gold Glove season? And I don't know how much of that confidence is there. This is another season and another situation in which Brendan Rodgers could be an interesting trade piece for some teams. But when you look at things, how interested will teams be? It's the big question that we asked during the trade deadline. How valuable to other teams are the top of the line Rockies players? I mean, and again, this is another situation in which I feel like maybe I overvalue the Rockies player here. I've talked a lot about how I think Brendan Rodgers to Seattle makes total sense. But again, you have to ask yourself, how does the rest of baseball view these players? And is it when they view these players, is it a player problem or is it a Rockies approach and philosophy problem? If you're going to commit to Brendan Rodgers, if Brendan Rodgers is going to continue to be the second baseman of the future, then you're going to have that's going to complicate things down the line. But we need to see more. But it's not just him. I need to see the Ryan McMahon that we all believe that he can be. I need Ryan McMahon to come back and cut that strikeout rate. I need to see a 15% cut in strikeouts for Ryan McMahon. As I do with Ezekiel Tovar, but I need to see Ryan McMahon is valued greatly by this team. It's valued greatly by leadership. So it's time for him to be the leader. It's time for him to be the leader statistically on the field and lead the charge. Because I think the Rockies have more confidence and faith in Ryan McMahon than they do in Brendan Rodgers. That's just me. Who do you think needs the bigger 2025, Ryan McMahon or Brendan Rodgers? And do both of those players finish the season with the team? Let me know what you think in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Let's dive into some Locked On Rockies comments here. Let's see here. Usually this is from D Goats here. Usually when teams have multiple 100-loss seasons, it's because they've dumped payroll and they're stacking top 5 draft picks to rebuild. Astros did it in 10 to 12 years ago. Orioles did it more recently. But you have to have a plan and desire to win. Rockies having 2 100-loss seasons while having a league average payroll is concerning. They clearly have no plan. You can win in Colorado. I firmly believe that, but not with the listless and unserious ownership that they have. If Rockies ownership listens to the show, they're not happy with us. But it is true. It's as we're talking about this topic right here, it's important because what is the concept of the plan for the Colorado Rockies? What is the plan for these guys? What is the plan to get better? That's still yet to be seen. All right, let's dive into. I looked at the clock here. Let's dive into a couple more YouTube comments and as well as some of the playoff action here after we take a quick break right here on Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and they got you covered throughout all the sports action. It's about to be lots of sports action going on with basketball and hockey just around the corner, and we're already in the thick of the WNBA and the MLB playoffs, so don't miss out on all the action. And if you're a big football fan, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. We're also brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the place to go where you need tickets. They got you covered for the sports. They got you covered for the concerts. They got you covered for the comedy. They got you covered for the stage shows. And if you want to check out the new cool stuff coming to your town, Gametime is a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. All in pricing, that means you're going to know exactly what you're going to pay up front. Just toggle that button on up at the top, and you are going to see what the price is right there. No hidden fees. And my favorite part, you're going to get a view from your seat so you know exactly where you're going to sit. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, folks. Locked On Rockies here. Paul Holden thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Reminder to go check out Sully for your second listen of the day. Let's go back to the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section here, and let's check out what our friend FNL Aviator has to say here. The Padres and Dodgers have solid pitching, star bat power, and consistent winning. That is what we lack as the Rockies. The playoffs are going pretty good. Enjoying watching the Dodgers get spanked in Game 2. Game 1, where the San Diego blew the lead, is just PTSD for us Rocks fans when we did that a lot, and probably to the Dodgers. In terms of the uniforms, personally, I wasn't a fan of the City Connect jerseys. I think if it was like the turn back the clock jerseys, it would have looked way better. And if they do have a new uniform, bring back the old black vest as the black vest jersey again. Loved that classic jersey. That was from FNL Aviator. Thank you so much. And let's see. Ohio Rocks here says, as a fan of teams who usually don't make the playoffs, I am used to watching postseason play with an outsider perspective. These playoff matchups the last few seasons have been great. The bitterness of the NL East always intrigues me, and it is shaping up to be another exciting chapter in their postseason history. This is from Ohio Rocks, by the way. With NHL hockey on the way, I think that the 2010s Columbus Blue Jackets can be a case study for the Rockies to follow. In 2012, the team finished dead last, 46 regulation losses. After that season, major changes in the front office followed. The team set out under John Davidson and later GM Jarmo Kekalanian, and with a clear and concise plan on how they wanted the team to be built. While there were no championship banners or huge team accomplishments, there was a considerable amount of consistency and moderate success that eluded the team for its entire existence to that point. The Rockies could take this style of approach and bring in fresh ideas with a clear and concise plan, examining their strengths from within, identifying their needs, identifying current players and prospects who fit into their vision of Rockies baseball, and how to go about acquiring them. I think much of Rockies fans would be able to endure a few more subpar seasons if there were more clear direction taking place and a core nucleus being built. Jones, Tolia, Tovar, Halverson are already a great start. That nucleus is starting to be formed, certainly, but it does leave a lot of questions still of what is the plan? What are they sticking to? What are they looking for in players as they're looking to build? And as we talked about this whole episode, what is their evaluation of their own talent and the value and valuation of their own talent as well? Lots more comments we didn't get to there, but as always, please keep firing them off there. We love talking to you in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comments section. Hey, we're running out of time, so we don't have a lot to dive into this, but the playoff drama is heating up, and man, it just highlights why baseball is so good in the postseason. The games have been great. The energy has been great. The attitudes have been great. You got the Dodgers and the Padres in an absolute, knockdown fight again, and the Dodgers fans being ridiculous. And now we got Roberts saying that Machado threw a ball at him. And I mean, there's just bad blood all over the place, especially mixed in with the NL East there, as mentioned in that YouTube comment. It is going to be, man, really, really something special. I think throughout this postseason, I think the teams, I think the energy, I think the vibes are really, really good for a lot of these teams. And I think we're going to continue to see some really interesting baseball. I mean, Tigers pitching duel yesterday, going up against the best closer in baseball, 3-run bomb, and they get the win. I mean, come on, dude. Like that stuff, it just gives you goosebumps. That's why baseball rules is stuff like that. So postseason continues to be a fascinating watch. We'll be keeping eyes on it here. We'll be breaking down all things Rockies right here on Locked On Rockies. So make sure that you're going and checking us out on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, because that's going to do it for us today. Make sure that you're making Locked On MLB your second listen of the day. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.